I think we're live, David Wood.
We are. Good to see you, Telman.
Good to see you, David. So we're here for one reason and one reason only. So let's keep it on track, shall we? we're keep it regimented, please. We are here to talk about email marketing, and David Wood is a very interesting character. If you haven't if you're not aware of David, you should be, and you will be endlessly entertained, and you probably will learn something along the way as well, I hope. But David was the founder of Empower Network, and David and I have known about each other for many years. I believe, if memory serves, that you took some of my list building training way back in the day. I believe you mentioned that, so that'd be interesting to talk about. But what I'd be interested in talking about more is, like, I know that you've recently kind of made a comeback, and you founded Empower Network quite a few years ago and blew it up with massive success. And I'm curious about your life story as it relates to email. Is like, how did email and email marketing change and impact your life? When you're asked that question, what immediately comes to mind? Like, what's the most interesting story you have to tell about email and how it shifted things for you?
Yeah, well, I think that the easiest way to talk about that would just be to talk about what I was doing before I was doing email, right?
Great.
So because that's the easiest way to build a bridge and build a relationship, and it'll help people understand it. So I worked in sales, and I did network marketing, right? So I was one of these guys that used to, like, I was in Amway for years, right? And I used to wander around in Walmart.
I didn't know you were an Amway guy. Wow.
Yeah, I was an Amway from 20. Well, I ran into Amway actually when I was like 12 years old. And then, because my dad was in it, he used to buy like that toothpaste, and that was why my family had yellow teeth. We used the Amway toothpaste, and then later, right, I joined it when I was like 21, and then I used to wander around in Walmart and Safeway, hitting strangers up, to sell them vitamins, soap, things like this.
Wow, talk about cold calling. That's hardcore.
Yeah. We used to wander around. I used to do cold calling. I worked in telemarketing centers, and this is really what eventually I got good at sales, right? So I did sales for a really long time. I got pretty good at doing traditional sales. So where, I used to sell vacuums. I sold Rainbow vacuums. I sold insurance. I sold loans. I sold all sorts of things. And one of the things that I was always awful at, of course, because, I think the way I ran into you was you had this ADD site.
Yeah.
I think how I got on your list originally is I was like looking at like, how to solve my ADD issues or something like that. And then I ran into one of your websites. I think that's how I ran into your site, but I'm not entirely sure because I keep getting on your list no matter what I do. And so in any case, that's how I got on your list. But what happened when I started learning how to do email marketing, it solved one of the biggest problems I had, which is that I had to spend so much time following up with people, right?
Right.
Yeah. So like in sales, in order to get somebody to make a decision, you've got to have like 5 exposures, 7 exposures of contact with them before you're ever going to get a decision. If you're doing any kind of push through marketing, I heard Jeff Olson describe it like this a long time ago, who was an old network marketing trainer. It's like when you take a product from a person to a person, right? You got more like brand marketing, pull through marketing, where, you're learning how to attract people to yourself, right? And, that's 5 to 7 exposures as well. You see a commercial, you've got a hot woman drinking a Coca-Cola, and then you see another commercial, somebody, drinks a Coca-Cola and they like it better than a Pepsi. And then you're in a store and you see Coca-Cola and Pepsi and you decide to drink the Coca-Cola, right? But then you've got marketing where you're taking a product from a person to a person, which is what I always did, right? So I was in something that was like, you have a $3,500 vacuum and somebody doesn't know anything about it whatsoever. And then you got to take this vacuum cleaner from a point where they know nothing about it to where somebody's going to pull out their credit card and buy a $3,500 vacuum, right? So in order to do that, people don't just like, boom, right, pull out their credit card and buy a $3,500 vacuum when they could get a vacuum in the store that's like $100. That makes no sense whatsoever unless there's a reason for them to do that, right? So that takes a series of exposures to build somebody up and to build a rapport and to build a connection. And then you have to have like a presentation that gets them to a point where they say, yes, I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to do this. Right. And network marketing is kind of the same, right? Most people are not just walking down the street thinking, oh gosh, I'd love to join an MLM company today. Right. Now, certainly the people online, they think that this is how it is by the way they post. Right. But they're like, I just got it pays 47% total, and nobody cares, right? So nobody is walking around the street saying like, I'm going to
Which
Safeway.
network marketing company should I choose today? Yeah, right.
Yeah, which MLM company am I going to go to Safeway and join? And so you've got to take a person from maybe not even knowing what that is to a conversation where they don't think you're a creep. Which is part of the battle if you're in something like Amway. You're walking around with a javelin attacking people. And then you got to take somebody from there to the point where they like you, they feel like they know you, they're looking at a presentation, and now all of a sudden they want to do it, right? So this takes a series of exposures, and I think everybody knows this with sales. Now, with email, what it essentially allowed me to do was put all of those series of exposures into a follow-up sequence that I wrote once. So rather than me doing it, the email was doing it.
You got a robot to do it for you.
Yeah. So it's like, that's the best way to explain it. It's like, it took all of the conversation, all the stuff that I hate, and put it into something that I just write once. And then it just goes out when somebody gives me their email address. And then I don't have to do it again and again and again and again and again and again and again. So all I have to do is get more people into that process. So it's infinitely easier to do email marketing than it is to do traditional sales, for example, right? It's infinitely easier. And so now, instead of twisting people's arms and calling people back and checking if they watched a video and doing all this like tedious work to get somebody to make a decision to buy something, they just opt into my site, and then they either buy or they don't buy, and I don't ever need to talk to them or anything. So it was like, email was like a gold mine when I found it. I was like, no way, right? This is like all this tedious work that I've been doing for years happening automatically. It was the best thing ever, right?
So let's just pause for a moment, because I also have a sales background prior to going into doing anything with email. And I've found that not all, but the vast majority of successful millionaire plus digital marketers, information marketers, internet marketers that I've met also tend to have a sales background. Right?
Yeah.
That's not uncommon, and it's a really good reminder, actually, because I teach email marketing, and so I'm always trying to remember what the problems are that email actually solves for people, because I've been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty far away from like when I first started doing email, which is one of the reasons I'm interviewing everybody about how email changed your life, right?
Yeah.
And so what you're spotlighting is that salespeople are cool because number one, they're hungry, right? If you're a salesperson, you're going to be willing to push yourself through the pain of a lot of just constant rejection, right? Especially when you're not good at sales yet. When you're just starting, it's just like constant rejection all the time until you finally nail it and you make some money. But that develops a level of tenacity, a level of persistence. If you make it through and you keep going and you actually get good enough to sell some stuff, like you've got some chops. And then the idea of using email as a way of automating that so you can continue to be an ADD salesman that's really good at starting conversations but not necessarily good at the follow-up is a really good point. It's a really good point. Maybe I should be selling more email marketing solutions to sales guys.
Well, this is a lot of the problems. If you're in sales and you're good at sales, a lot of the people that are good at sales are not very organized.
Very disorganized. Yeah.
They're very disorganized because they're in a profession. Sales is not really something like, being a lawyer or something where you have to have this huge educational background. You got to have some charisma, some sort of people skills, and you just got to basically, be willing to go out and talk to 1 million people and have people tell you no and kind of keep on going.
And figure it out. Yeah. Learn over time.
That kind of person is like, usually they are not the most organized people in the world, right? So what do organized people struggle with? Well, they struggle with follow-up, follow-through, right? It's not because they don't want to follow through. It's because they forget, right?
Well, they're
This goes
very
back
good
to the
at
whole,
shifting gears. They're very good at going from conversation to conversation to conversation. They're very good at starting up new things. That's like initiating the beginning, right?
yes. Yeah, they're good at a million things. And then so the things that they struggle with, it's like, oh, I got to call this person back 6 times while I'm talking to 50 more people, and then I got to keep track of which stage they are in the process, and then move them from one point to another point, and then remember where that was when, and they just want to show up. That's why if you go to there's a saying that I had a CMO, and he used to say this, that good products make marketing easy and good marketing makes selling easy, right?
True.
But really, the marketing is about building a process around a salesperson. So what a salesperson is really good at, what you really want salespeople to do, if you have a company, for example, is you just want the salespeople showing up at the point where they're having a conversation with a prospect on a schedule that they're not managing, and they're just doing the sales conversations. Anything more than that on a salesperson, and they start losing track of what they're good at and getting lost in details.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so email allows you to do all that other stuff. And so even if somebody owns a traditional company and they're like, well, I don't really know how I have salespeople, I don't know how I use email marketing. They could get some, for example, email marketing specialists to build the process around their sales process, to where it's like all that stuff that is complicated for a person to do, that is good at selling a message, that's good at communicating a message, it's done automatically.
Right.
And so the sales calls become worth infinitely more, right? So that's what email essentially allowed me to do. Once I figured out how to do that, it essentially enabled me to create a pretty high level of income on demand whenever I wanted. So I went from kind of struggling, and all of a sudden I'm making $300 a day, $500 a day, $1,000 a day, $2,000 a day every day, right? Because it allowed me to take what was very complicated for me to be able to do, and to put it into a process that just did it for me, so I could focus on the strengths.
Well, you took a specific part of the sales process, which is the follow-up, right? And you got leverage in that particular area. You went from one to one to one to many.
Yeah.
And ideally you do that in several different areas of your business. And lo and behold, if you do it and you do it successfully and you keep your systems maintained, you make multiples of income across the board in all these different areas. So when you first discovered email lists, and at that point, probably fairly rudimentary email automation, were you doing Empower yet, or were you selling something else?
No, I didn't start Empower Network for years. So what happened was, I originally ran across internet marketing much earlier than I got started doing it. But I got discouraged from doing it from this network marketing company I was in, because the leader of that company said that the internet people, they never build great organizations. It was Randy Gage. He was not.
Oh, I know Randy.
Yeah. Randy's great. And Randy does internet marketing, but if you have a network marketing organization and everybody starts doing all this complicated stuff, they tend to get distracted and do nothing, which was essentially his point. And he's right. He was right about it, but it distracted me from the internet, which I was much stronger at. So then in 2009, I was just kind of sick of doing network marketing traditionally. And then I was living in a green van with my ex-wife. Now I know we're both divorced, right? So I was, living with my ex-wife, Ashley, in a green van, parking at different beaches every night of the week. And then eventually I got so broke that I was like, all right, I got to change this. But it was a serious, you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I got to change this situation like right now. Right. Like I was down to my last $50. And then one night I'm sleeping in my van and a cop comes and slaps on my window in Hawaii, and I wake up and he's shining a light on my face, and I see this bright light, and then he writes me a ticket. It's like the last money I got in my bank account, right? So then I was like, all right, yeah, I got to do something different. So I started looking for ways of making money on the internet. The thing is I had been sold to so many times, and I had sold so much in my life, that when I got the automation pieces around, I just kind of knew what to do, right? And so by the time I got on the internet, I had this. That's why a lot of salespeople come into the internet and they do really well, because they have this background that enables them to just transpose their old skills into a new environment, right? And it works really well, right? They've already got the background. You already had a sales background, then you come on the internet, then you kind of know how to write emails because you've had a million conversations with people, and it's the same thing that you're doing. You're just putting it in writing rather than having the conversation, right? So a lot of times salespeople and people that have a lot of experience getting rejected and a lot of experience with people, they come into this environment, they've got fantastic stories, they've got great communication abilities, and then they learn how to put that into an email rather than in a sales conversation and write it once. And then all of a sudden it's happening for them automatically. So when I got on the internet, originally I was marketing. I had a system I was marketing. I had a network marketing company I was marketing. I was marketing affiliate products. And I got up to making about 30 grand a month without any paid ads or anything, getting very minimal amount of leads. I mean, I was getting 30 leads a day, making $30,000 a month for years.
What was the primary thing you were selling?
I had like 3 of them. Yeah, they were all things that I'm not involved with anymore. One of them I'm not involved with because they ended up stealing about $500,000 from me, and that was MLSP, you know. And the other ones, the other ones, it's just that little affiliate products I had, right? So what I was doing is I had a business model, and then I was just teaching people how to do what I was doing, and then I was giving them the tools that I was using to build that business, right? So I would give them like the autoresponder I'm using, and they would buy it, and then I'd make money from the autoresponder. I would give them the video service I was using. They would buy it. I would make money from the video service. And then I had a system that I was using. They would buy it. I would make money from the system. And then I was building relationships with the customers and then closing them on joining this network marketing company that I was in. And then the network marketing company was making me like 10 grand a month. The system was making me like 10 grand a month. I was making several $1,000s a month from tools. I was making a few $1,000s a month from other stuff. And eventually I launched my own course. And then I started making $10,000 a month from my own course. And then I did an event and I made $30,000 doing a high ticket event. And then somewhere after that, I was like, well, this is what happened to me, actually. This is the reason I originally started Empower Network, right? Is I was frustrated with the internet because I was like, I teach people how to do this and they can't do it. It's too complicated for them, right? Like I could not figure out how to help people do this who were normal people because it's too complicated, right? Like a full-time person could do it who's at least they've got maybe an above average intelligence, right? This is what I thought at the time. I was like, but a normal person, they come and they try this, they try to set everything up, they try to make all these, they try to do all this stuff. It overloads them and they never get started. Right. And so I was just like, if I can't figure out how to teach people to do this, I'm just going to quit. I don't care. Right. And because I've never really actually cared very much about money. I mean, I think that we talk about money a lot. I really don't care about money at all. I used to care more than I care now, and I just don't care at all anymore. And so in any case, I didn't do anything for like 3 months. I did nothing whatsoever. I just let my autoresponders run. I did nothing whatsoever. I didn't write any blog posts. I made no videos. And I made my income went up. I went from making like 30 grand a month to like 45 doing nothing, right? And I was like, this is the most awesome thing ever. I was like, how can I help people do this? And what happened is eventually I figured out I could sort of build a franchise model around the kind of business that I had and give it to people. And then all they had to do was just buy it and use it. That's the original intention. That's not what Empower Network is actually doing right now, but that's the original reason I started Empower Network is I was just franchising my existing business for other people so they could just take the business model I already had that was already making me multiple 6 figures a year, and they could just buy it and use it and then make money. And then that blew up. And originally, actually, the most emails I've ever sent at our peak, we were sending like millions of emails a day.
Like a lot of emails.
Like 2-3 million emails a day, every day.
Mm-hmm. So, and what year was that?
Oh, that was probably 2014.
Yeah. And so now that you've recently stepped back into the scene and started doing some more stuff again, I noticed that you started being more active with email.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, not of course. I mean, so it's 2023 now. You right? Like you got the ball rolling and a few months ago in 2022. And what I'm wondering is how focused are you on email now? How important is email now in the new iteration of what you're working on?
I'll just be honest. I'm trying to figure out email again, like I did before, because I took a break from marketing for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Right. Like I did not market at all for 5 years, 0. And so, I started emailing again. So like when I started, I put an offer up and then I ended up doing real well my first month with that. And then I've had a residual income that I built from that. And essentially, I started looking for solutions to email because I had a problem in the sense that I had this big database and I couldn't reach out to them.
Big old database.
Yeah, big old database. So I reached out to you, obviously, with that, and then we had a conversation. Then you introduced me to Travis.
Yep.
We're at Campaign Refinery, and Travis kind of gave me a good strategy to that. So I've been kind of warming back up my email list slowly. And then I'm kind of taking breaks from it because I'm seeing, all right, what are people going to respond to? And I've kind of figured out that I first have got to sort of reestablish rapport with people, and which goes back to the original way that I ran into them. And then I'm going to have to kind of build that into a momentum and then get my email to where I've at least got a majority of a good amount of people that are opening emails. And then I'm going to have to take everybody and pull them into like a series of new offers is what I'm going to have to do. But a big old email list. So you take an old email list, you haven't emailed people in like 5 years, and some of them don't remember who you are. Maybe some of them, they don't like you. You know what I mean? Or they're like, what the heck? You haven't emailed me in 5 years. What's the deal?
Right.
And then you've got to take them from that to where they're starting to respond to your message again, to where they're following you and paying attention to you again, to where they're ready to buy something again, which is going to take some time to really get that list responding. It is making me a little bit of money from the email list, but what that allows you to do is it allows you to build what I think about it is like you're building relationships with a lot of people at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. Like in normal life, in the normal world that we live in, that we've existed in for the last 6,000 years, you've really only been able to build relationships with a few people at a time. You have a conversation. You can speak in front of a group if you were somebody that was well known, and then the group is listening to you. If you're a preacher or something like that, you're talking to 100 people at once. Or if you're a politician, you're talking to 100 people at once. But then you didn't even have microphones back in the day, so you couldn't ever give a speech to 1,000 people way back in the day because they wouldn't be able to hear you. People don't think about that. Now we go into an auditorium, there's 15,000 people. If you try to talk in front of 15,000 people 2,000 years ago, nobody'd be able to hear you, right? So then we invent microphone technology to where people can hear the signals really far back. Now we have broadcast technology to where they can watch you in video, and now email technology and things like this. It allows you to communicate with 1,000 people at once, 2,000 people at once, 5,000 people at once, and 100,000 people at once. And then you're learning how to build rapport with everyone at the same time. It really is miraculous advent in human communication, So I think I'm a big fan of mass communication because, you need it to get anything significant done.
So in your mind the way I think about it, and maybe this is outdated and maybe it's going to change, I don't know, but the way I still think about my business is that for me, like, email is the central nervous system, and everything else is attached to it and can feed it and can grow it and can strengthen it, and you can do all sorts of cool things. But email still is at the very core of the communication between me and my subscribers and my customers, whether it's fans, whether it's clients, whether it's customers, and all the different social media platforms that are out there are ways of creating content and or bringing new people into that email list. But I'm wondering do you have any awareness or thoughts on, is there anything that you see that is obviously going to overtake email as the core, or are you not as of the same camp, and do you not think of email as the kind of central part of your business? What are your thoughts on this?
I see email as like one of the things that has to connect to everything. So could it be the central nervous system? I think that's a good metaphor for it. I don't know if anything could replace email because right now we'd have to watch technology. You know what I mean? I mean, there might be in 10 years, everybody might be microchipped in the brain, and you might need to send thought-to-thought communication.
Right.
With a Neuralink implant, which I would never get. So email. People have thought over and over again it's going away, and it hasn't.
Right.
I remember I used to read, because Ryan Dice does stuff like this. I used to read all his emails, and every year he thinks something giant is going away, and he sells some fantastic course. And then a year later, he's still doing email. So I remember he set this thing out. This is years and years and years and years and years ago. He's like, email is going away, and it was such a convincing message. And then he used it to sell some course, and then 4 months later, he's like, "Yeah, email is not going away." So email so far has not gone away, and I think that there's definitely a lot of things that have changed. And one of the things that I'm getting used to right now, Telman, is and I don't know if you could appreciate this. We've been around forever. So I started marketing again. And I'm doing it. I'm communicating with messages, and I'm not excited about the same things that I used to be excited about.
Right? No,
not. Right? I am not excited to do certain things I used to do, and some of the things that we do, like I'm not excited about BizOp anymore. I used to be so excited about it. I'm not excited about network marketing anymore. But I still like this idea of being able to build communication and rapport with a large group of people at the same time, right? Because it enables us to do things that can really, number one, it can make you a lot of money, right? And I think that people do want to make a lot of money. And even if it's not a lot of money, even if you can make like a few $1,000s a month and survive from email marketing, the thing is, I have my life is very unique, right? I don't make the kind of money that I made at the peak of Empower Network right now, right? I can admit that freely because, if I said that wasn't true,
everybody would know you're totally full of shit.
Yeah. Like I went through periods of time where I was making $250,000, $500,000 a month for a long time, right?
No,
and
I'm in no way near the close to my peak at the moment either. Like I hear you. These things do come up, and if you stay in the same industry for enough decades, like you'll notice there are some ups and downs, right?
Yeah, and part of it is I just got sick of a lot of the nonsense.
Right.
like hottest opportunity ever. And then seeing how people are like, I just joined the thing that I'm going to plant my flag. And this is, what I was around, because I was around network marketing. I've decided to plant my flag in XYZ company. And then like 4 months later, they're like, I've decided to plant my flag instead in ABC company, those evil owners and that. And it's like, oh gosh, I just, I would rather sit there in a full lotus and watch paint dry for the afternoon. And so, but there's certain cores of what it is that we do. They're so powerful to be able to get a message across that an email is one of them, because email allows you to control your mass communication when you get it down. Right.
And it's interesting because email does, email is more complex than it used to be. When we say email, right now we're talking about email marketing. For anyone who's just joining us, we're talking with David Wood, founder of Empower Network. If people want to get on your list, should they go to empowernetwork.com?
Yeah, they can go to empowernetwork.com there.
Great. By the way, hey Curtis and hey William, nice to hear from you both. I'm just going to put that up on the screen. So if you guys want to follow David, please go to empowernetwork.com. And so, yeah, what I found is that, just selling the new opportunity to the person that's just chasing the opportunity is such a waste, because ultimately even if they do make a little bit of money, it's like they don't develop any skills. And so what I've been really thinking about a lot lately is the idea. Now, I've never trained in the martial arts. I know that you have. And I recently have been watching, this is a very silly story. I've recently been watching Cobra Kai. And
it's great.
I didn't realize what Cobra Kai was about, because I don't like Netflix binge that often. And when I do, it's usually like superhero cartoons.
Yeah.
And then I was visiting my girlfriend in Rhode Island, and her and her son are into Cobra Kai, and she's putting her son to bed. And I'm like, I'll watch some Cobra Kai. And so I've been watching Cobra Kai when I drive down to Rhode Island, and I've been watching it and looking at it and thinking about it, and watching how, this kind of washed out drunk, burned out, angry sensei ends up training these rejects, these nerds, these black sheep, these social outcasts that are tired of getting their asses beat, right? And how he ends up with a whole school full of like total wusses that he has to then figure out how to like train into badasses. And I just finished season 1. I thought it was great, and I'm driving home from Rhode Island and I'm frustrated because I'm thinking about how unskilled all of the people who are consistently failing at marketing and failing at being an entrepreneur online are. And I'm like, how do I fix this? People have such a hard time with accountability, with getting shit done, with just sitting down, setting the time aside and nailing the to-do list items, including me. Like, I also have a hard time with some of this stuff. And I was like, what if we started an entrepreneurial / email marketing training school that was built like a martial arts school, where you don't pay to learn, you pay to train, right? And so the whole idea is to train the entrepreneurs to execute, train on the important tasks in their business. And it's actually, you show up and you do a work party where you show up and you actually like on a big Zoom call, and you actually do the work live on the call instead of listening to some jackass yap for 90 minutes about something you're never going to execute on anyway. And so that was the idea, is how do you help to actually train people to do the thing instead of just to learn the thing and feel good about it, you know? So that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that there's an evolution we could take, and I've looked at one thing that I have studied a lot, and I've studied this more than about anybody that I know, but there are people that have probably studied it more, okay, that I know. There's one guy in particular I know that reads 6 hours a day, and you know, he's probably studied it more. I've studied culture and what makes people do things, and you know, the interesting thing is that there's this phenomenon where it's like, if you get people together that are already working, it's very easy to direct them on how to fix it. Yeah. But it's a much more difficult task to get somebody working who never
can't
worked
get
in the
shit
first
done
place.
On their own. Yeah, right. Yeah. Self-initiators.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so if you can figure that one out, I think we'd all be listening, you know. And you know, I've looked at, for example, also, you know, what keeps groups of people together. Because groups of people don't seem to stick together anymore. It used to be we just kind of stuck together naturally because we were in these little tribes and we traveled around together.
There weren't that many options.
You know? Yeah. Now, you know, people don't stay in churches. They don't stay in, you know, I think they stay in school for a lot of their lives most of the time, but they don't necessarily go to college.
Not as much.
But not
marriages.
As much. Yeah. Marriages. Actually, you know, the interesting thing, though, is in the United States, the divorce rate keeps going up. In India, divorce is only 1%.
I heard your rant the other day. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because it's like, I was like 1%, you know, like we're like, you know, I was looking at things like,
how is that even possible?
Yeah, they're like only 50% in some country. You're like, whoa, you know, they're like 1%, you know. So anyways, you know, how do you build communities that actually stick together, where people are actually accountable? And we've got to rethink that, because what we're doing, what the marketing space has been doing, is not working. And it has not been really, it's helping people that are already just working day and night, for example, to do things a little bit better. But I'm interested if you could figure that out. You know, we built a really great community and Empower Network at one point where we were doing events. Our biggest event was 6,200 people, you know, that we ever did. And I'm interested to see what could we do to get people prospering that are very part-time, they're just starting, that don't really know anything about this. You know, if you could figure that out, that would be interesting, I think, to everybody right now, because that's missing.
It is. But at the same time, there's also something to be said for focusing on the Olympians. And what I mean by, like, you were mentioning earlier, how much easier it is to get somebody that's already working or people that are already working to coordinate and then do something great together. Whereas if you have a bunch of people that are sitting around with their thumbs up their ass, it's kind of hard to get them into motion, right? And so the majority of people, in my experience, really don't have the gumption to run a business themselves. And in the early stages, when you're just doing it part-time, the payoff is really small. And so my question is, I guess one of my thought is like, if people are only going for an extra $1,000 a month, or, you know, like, is that even enough to get them to change anything about their life? Is the payoff big enough or substantial enough for them to actually get outside of their comfort zone and start learning sales and start getting rejected and start doing all the things that you have to do as an entrepreneur along the way as you get your ass kicked and you get strong, you get tough, you know?
Yeah.
So like, is it a better idea to just focus on the ass kickers, just focus on the people who are going to be super good, and not to focus on people who have very small goals that probably won't really change their life anyway?
Well, you're definitely gonna make more money doing that, right? Because the ass kickers are gonna pay for stuff, and they're gonna show up, and they're gonna pay more money, and they're gonna complain less, and they're gonna work more and get better results. So there's definitely an advantage to that. And the vast majority of people that get around, they don't really ever work hard enough to see anything happen. And it's hard to overcome that with people because, you know, that's what I've tried to figure out for years. Is like, how do you get people to actually like just take enough of an activity to get them to produce some kind of a result, no matter who they are? And it's not the easiest thing to figure out, actually, because vast majority.
Well, you have to. That's the thing. It's like when you're working out, right?
Yeah.
The goal is to look better and to feel better, possibly to be healthier, right? To extend your life, to improve the health of your body. Probably you want to be more attractive as well. Okay, in most cases. And so the goal is to lose weight, get more fit, become more attractive. But that never sticks if you don't fall in love with working out. Okay?
Yeah.
If you don't fall in love with learning how to eat better, learning how to fuel your body in a better way, learning nutrition and how to optimize things for you, right? And so my thinking is really around, like, if you want to be in shape for the rest of your life, you have to learn how to fall in love with at least one form of serious physical activity. And with marketing and entrepreneurship, I've found that successful people fall in love with the act of trying, with the act of putting the effort in to launching something new and seeing how it goes, putting the effort into learning how to become a better copywriter, putting the effort into, oh, there's a skill over there that I need to get good at. Let's drop $5,000 on a course and get good at that in the next 3 months. I really want to get good at like having an awesome YouTube channel. Let me go find out where the best YouTube guy is and learn how to do it awesome, right? Like, that's how successful people develop skills and go after stuff for themselves as individuals and to help train their teams. But I found that people who are where the money is the goal, they never fall in love with the activity. And if you don't fall in love with the activity, why would you, like, you're not going to have the fortitude to get better. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think people need to set goals too, and getting people to set goals and then actually review them enough to where it really sinks into the mind is something that I think Mark Joyner's done a great job of that with, you know, his stuff. But getting people to just set goals and review the goals, then think through all the ways of accomplishing the goals, and then to stick with that long enough in order to see something happen is the key to really changing somebody's life. Because it does take work for somebody to change their life. And if somebody thinks that they're going to change their life radically without any work,
good luck.
They're in some sort of a delusion that is not helpful for them. Because even if their life did suddenly change out of where they're at, it would just sink back to where they're at if they don't actually change the way that they are. Right? We have the lives that we have for a reason. There's no reason why we live the way that we live. We live the way that we live. We have the lives that we have because of the way that we are. And if we want to change the way that our life is, we have to change the way that we are. And this is a core thing. I mean, you know this from knowing hypnosis, right? And from working with clients and seeing why clients are the way that they are. They're the way that they are because of how they are on the inside. And we got to change that. And it starts with stretching ourselves to new outcomes and new goals and a new vision of something that we want that we don't have. Something that we want to change in our life that is not changed, some new kind of an outcome, new kind of horizon that, and I've got gigantic goals for myself, Tillman, but the reality is that once you set that goal, then it's a matter of sticking with it. And also, right, continuing to believe that you can do that thing, even when you're in the process of figuring out long enough to actually figure it out.
Even while you're getting your ass kicked. Like,
yeah,
especially
when you're getting your ass kicked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you will get your ass kicked. I think that people need to hear that. Look, if you
the bigger your goal, the more your ass is going to get kicked. Like
your ass is going to get kicked. By the way,
over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, ass kicking.
Yeah,
that's true. No,
it's good stuff, man.
Welcome to Ass Kicking School, ladies and gentlemen.
Ass Kicking School.
So actually, I'm just going to put this out there. So we're thinking about starting a new community that you will pay for, where we will train you to be an entrepreneurial ass kicker by giving you specific drills and instructions on how to write subject lines, how to write and deploy an email in less than 15 minutes. We'll give you 25 minutes to build a squeeze page on template. You'll actually get the work done in your business while you're in class. And what I want to know is, who would be interested in something like that? If you'd be interested in something like that, then why don't you just write ass kicker in the comments, and I'll follow up with you. You can send me a private message if you want to kick ass even faster. But yeah, that's basically the idea. We're thinking about starting a training academy where we're going to train entrepreneurs who are tired of getting their ass kicked and who want to really start kicking some ass instead.
Well, what you do, the interesting thing is what you do when you're tired of getting your ass kicked. All right, because I studied martial arts my whole life.
All right.
When you're tired of getting your ass kicked, what do? Well, you go to a school where they kick your ass even more, and you get used to it.
That's right.
And then you get better at responding to it than everybody around you, and then that problem stops. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to get something to really change in your life. And
Stop
you're
being afraid of it.
Yeah. Sometimes the solution is, for example, the frustration. Sometimes the solution is to just expose yourself to so much frustration that nothing frustrates you anymore.
Yeah, expand your threshold of pain.
Expand your threshold, right? Yeah. So training, actually doing something and getting feedback is the way of learning, right? That is actually how people get good at anything. People do not get good at languages by reading a book about how to get good at a language. Right. They get good at languages only by practicing that language.
By getting really embarrassed over and over and over again.
Yeah, by trying to talk and trying to talk and trying to talk and failing and trying and fail. And then all of a sudden your brain starts to get it, and then you produce more words. I speak English and Spanish, and that's it right now. Right. But only by practicing a language do you ever get good at a language. Only by practicing a skill do you ever get good at a skill. Right. You are not going to, for example, right? Let's take somebody that has never read a martial arts book, but they go train at, some sort of martial arts school for 1 hour a day. And then you get a person that just reads martial arts books for 3 hours a day, right? Who is going to fight better in 3 hours?
Right, of course, the guy that trains. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the only person that will be able to fight. You could think about getting good at marketing all you want. You could think about building a website all that you want. You could attend every course on the internet about how to build a website. And without ever actually doing it, you're never going to make any money. The question is, how many YouTube videos do you need to watch before you start earning a commission by doing that? The answer is you never will earn a commission, right? You'll never make any money by watching a webinar. You'll never make any money by watching a live. You could take what you learn in a live and do it, and then you can make money from it. But actually, the act of sitting there does not make you any money.
One of the interesting things, dude, that I found is that all of my new email students, every single one of them, I train them to broadcast live daily. And the reason I train them to broadcast live daily is to be able to create content for their list and to bring new people into their list before they have an ad budget, right? I mean, it's creating free organic content. And before any of my students sign into, like, before I accept money from any of them, I make them promise me that they will start doing daily Facebook Live broadcasts. And you want to know what the biggest thing that people have the hardest time with in the entire program? Doing the daily Facebook Live broadcast. I think it comes down to fear of public speaking. I think it comes down to the classic fear of public speaking issue, and that people are so intimidated by criticism, by looking bad, by the idea of saying or doing something that sounds stupid, not looking professional, all of these things. And so in your world, with your current fans and list and customers, are there any specific executable actions that you wish your people were trained to be able to do without hesitation?
Well, yeah, there's a couple things, right? So for me, if I'm going to have somebody do like a live group meeting, for example, I want people to do something like that once a week, right? Now, a live Facebook is different because Facebook is not really it's not really a webinar, for example. Like I want somebody to do a webinar once a week with their people.
Sure.
Right. Like a Zoom or something like this. A Zoom, a GoToWebinar. I mean, Zoom is the best one there is now. But like once a week, promote towards doing a live training with a small group of people every week, right? There's a couple of reasons why I think that's important to do, right? I mean, it's like the idea of a Facebook Live, right? If you have a Facebook Live scheduled and there's only one person watching it, eventually you get frustrated with that.
Oh, right? Dude. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, oh man, I gotta figure out how to get 50 people on this every day.
Right.
I feel like I'm wasting all
I'm talking to a ghost town here. Right.
Yeah. And then you got to figure out how to use your content too, right? Mm-hmm. To the maximum capacity. I'll give you an example. Okay. There's a AI transcription technology now. You used to have to pay for a transcriber and it was expensive.
Right.
So you could transcribe your videos and turn them into blog posts and then also get organic search results from written content and things like this. You could take your lives and then if you do, for example, 8 lives that are an hour long on a different subject, I mean, this is about 6,000 words each, 6 times 8. What's this like 54 or something like this? My brain is not the best at math sometimes, but in any case, right, you got a 54,000 page book by transcribing that and fixing some mistakes that you can then go release an ebook or something like this from the lives that you did. There's a way to reuse the content so you're not wasting your time, right? If you're taking the time to go out there and live. So number one, you're like, I'm going to go live. I'm going to feel like an idiot if nobody's watching this, right? I need people to watch. I need people to watch my videos. And so then you take time to learn some strategies to promote your video. If you're going to do a Zoom hangout and there's only one person on your Zoom hangout, right? Eventually you're going to get frustrated with the fact that there's only one person on your Zoom hangout. And then you're going to work to have 5. And then you're going to work to have 10 because you're going to realize that time is better spent with a bigger group of people, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so it forces you to learn the surrounding skills to increase attendance and to not waste your time if you're doing things like that, right? Sure. And so what I found is that consistently, this is back in the day when I was running in Power Network for years, right? We had people that were earning like $50,000 a month and things like this. What I learned is that if somebody would do a live training once per week, it was like the amount of times that somebody would do that and not be making $10,000 a month 2 years from then was almost zero.
Right.
It was like almost non-existent that somebody would get, like, when would somebody not get to a 6-figure income by doing a live training in front of an increasing group every single week? It was almost non-existent that would ever happen. Right. Sure. And I don't even know actually if it ever happened because I never had anybody complain about the fact that they were doing a live every week and weren't getting results. Never did I have anybody, they never took a complaint and said, I've been doing a live meeting every single week for 2 years and I'm not making any money. I've
Right.
never had a single person complain about that ever. And I'm assuming that they don't complain because they either never do it and then they go away if they're the people that would have complained, or every single time they do it, they start getting some kind of result. So if you show up live every single day, yeah, your communication skills improve. And the thing about it is that don't worry if you look like an idiot. Of course, we all look like idiots. Nobody cares, right?
Nobody cares.
You don't usually scroll through lives and say, this person looks like a total idiot, unless they're just drugged out of their mind or something on live, right? And then you're like,
and whatever. And then if that happens and they're a pain in the ass, you block them and you don't have to deal with them again. It's fine.
Yeah, they just see you, and if they're interested, they watch it, and if they're not interested, they go watch something else. Don't worry about it.
Right.
Nobody cares. It's like, I had this is something that like if you ever go out to like a nightclub and you're dancing or something like this, right? People that don't dance, they have this flawed conception in their mind that everybody's staring at them and laughing at them for how bad they dance. Right. But nobody
gives
cares.
a crap.
Nobody gives a crap. Right. They're all focused on themselves and whoever the hot girl is, and the hot girls are looking at who the hot guy is or whatever. And nobody cares about how good or bad you're dancing in a nightclub. Right. Unless you're just so bad, unless you're you're so bad that you're the most entertaining person there, then they care because you're awesome. Yeah, then you win because you're the most entertaining, because you're so horrible that everybody's staring at you, right? But that's not the way that it is. So when you're speaking and when you're communicating, right, don't worry about it. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Dude, check it out. So when we think about, by the way, I actually have to go. I have a Q&A with my email empire people in 2 minutes. So we'll maybe we'll do part 2 or something. When you're creating content on a daily basis, and for many people that's going to be through live streaming, unless you're a really great writer and you're focused on writing, in which case I recommend they keep doing that. But if you're creating video content on any channels, and get good at live streaming so you can talk about your stuff at the drop of a hat without a lot of hesitation and difficulty. But you will, if you do this, you will start talking to ghosts, so ghost town. There will be no one at times. And what I would encourage you to do is think about actors and actresses and just ask yourself, do they practice and practice and practice and practice with nobody watching? And the answer is yes. They're willing to practice and practice and practice with nobody watching so they can get good at their art, so that when somebody is watching, they can crush it. And so in the early stages of you doing live streaming, you're practicing. And it's great if nobody's watching. You're practicing. There's nothing wrong with that. So fall in love with your art of communication. Fall in love with your message and how you're trying to help people, and do it every single day so you can get good, so you can know your medium, so you can have a platform, so you can grow it over time.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. So I think you got to go. So everybody, hey, thanks for watching, and thanks for having me on, Telman. I appreciate you. I encourage everybody here, obviously, who's watching, to pick up Telman's courses, right? Obviously, you could go to empowernetwork.com if you want to, and get on my email list. I'd pick up Telman's courses and, participate in his masterminds, because community does do wonders for you. And sometimes all you really need is to be around a group of people that are doing the same things as you to have your breakthrough that you're looking for, because you're going to see things from the work that other people are doing that's going to help you make distinctions, that's going to help you get results that you couldn't have gotten if you're trying to do it by yourself. Indeed. I believe the purpose in life is to work together towards accomplishing outcomes. Otherwise, what's the purpose of having all these people, right? If we can work together on accomplishing things, we're fulfilling part of the purpose of existence, and we're going to be happier. We're going to get better results. We're going to make more money. You're going to meet other people that you form relationships with, that you can start businesses with. And it's all about getting in small communities, participating in those communities, coming and bringing your value, and then learning how to sharpen your skills. Remember, Abraham Lincoln, he used to say, if I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, right, I'd spend 6 hours sharpening the axe, and then 2 hours chopping the tree. I'm probably butchering that quote, right? But the principle is the same. If you focus on getting better, your life is going to start getting better. Remember that the change on the outside comes from the inside. So, Telman, appreciate you. Thanks for having me on, and let me know anytime I can help you out.
Yeah, let's talk again soon. I appreciate you jumping on. Thanks so much, dude. Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.